Hello everyone. In this video, I want to show how I archive articles and book information, as well as how I keep annotated bibliographies using Zotero. So I've been using Zotero for maybe over 10 years, and this is I found this application to be very useful in archiving and then also organizing bibliographic information. So this is my Zotero. It looks like I've been studying about collective trauma. So I created a folder named collective trauma because I'm looking at three different pedagogies related to collective trauma. I have a folder for each. One is healing-centered engagement, another one is social-emotional learning, and then another one is trauma-informed pedagogy. So I actually exported this information from ProQuest, which is one of the databases that educational researchers often use. So I used keywords, for example, healing-centered engagement and a collective trauma, and found this article, and I was able to these articles, and I was able to export the information just by clicking these articles from ProQuest. So this is an example of how I keep track on the information. Actually, this basic information has been exported from the ProQuest. And you should be able to do this just by one click, and I can show you how to do that later in another video. So this is information that I received from ProQuest, and then that includes abstract. I also attached the actual article. Here, I am very systematic in terms of what I put under tag. I make sure to put whether it's an empirical study or non-empirical study. If it's empirical study, I will put the type of study. For example, in this case, this was action research. I also put that this is collective trauma, and then because it uses healing-centered engagement as approach, I put HCE. It does also talk about social emotional learning, which is another type of pedagogy that addresses collective trauma. So I added that too. So that was I put in tags, and then later I will be able to retrieve all the articles from different folders by using one of these tags and organize them. Here is a note I took. So I have been taking notes very systematically. So every time I look at individual article, I pay attention to certain things that reflects my conceptual framework. First of all, is this about collective trauma or not? It should be yes, because I retrieved articles using collective trauma as keyword. But I read one more time to make sure that it is about collective trauma. So in this case, it was about collective trauma, and it was about pandemic. Does it use science of trauma in the article? The answer was no. Does it talk about teachers' identity or teachers' trauma position? It didn't talk about teachers' identity, but the article listed that teachers who were engaged in this study were victims of a collective trauma, which was pandemic. And also looked at students' identity and also trauma position. They were also victims of a pandemic, but their identities were not mentioned. Also here, I list major argument of the study, and then theoretical framework. In some studies, researchers talk about the actual concrete theoretical frameworks such as critical race theory or feminist theories in their work. So when they name those theoretical frameworks, I also take notes in here. In this in the case of this article, I did not find the author directly talking about any theoretical framework, so I left this section blank. So anyways, this is how I take notes on all these articles that I exported from the database. Later, I will be able to highlight all these articles and then be able to export to Excel. And then from the Excel, I will also start do another level of an analysis by looking at the data in the Excel. So anyways, this is one example of how to keep annotated bibliographies. Hope this was helpful. Thank you.